Well, a new legal drama could be swirling around O.J. Simpson. You know, the former football star was released from prison in Nevada overnight after serving 9 years for that botched armed robbery in Las Vegas. And over the summer, you may remember that a parole board granted him early release. He got 9 to 33 years. Here's O.J. at that hearing making his case to get out.
And I will be no problem, you know, and I think I kept my word. As I said, I've done my time. I'd just like to get back to my family and friends. And believe it or not, I do have some real friends. But I don't think I could have represented this prison. I don't think any inmate has ever represented it better than I.
Oh, now comes the question of where O.J. goes now. According to Florida's Attorney General Pam Bondi, she does not want him to return to the Sunshine State. He was living there before that botched robbery in Las Vegas. Ms. Bondi releasing this statement saying in part, quote, Floridians are well aware of Mr. Simpson's background, his wanton disregard for the lives of others, and of his scofflaw attitude with respect to the heinous acts for which he has been found civilly liable. The specter of his residing in Florida should not be an option. Let's bring in our legal panel, Stephanie Legos-Willis and Robert Schlack, both former prosecutors and now defense attorneys. Robert, let me start with you. And her civil liability, of course, referring to the big 1995 murder case in which she was acquitted, beating a double murder rap. Can Pam Bondi does she have the legal right to bar O.J. Simpson from the state?
She does not, according to the law, have the legal right to unequivocally say no. There are two categories that O.J. will fall into. He will be into someone who's eligible on paper, and there'll be someone that is discretionary. It will all depend on his context of the community. He was living there beforehand. He does have 2 children there. It will also rely on whether or not there's a game plan in him that his legal team hopefully is putting together as we speak, or for him was putting together in anticipation of his release, that they'll submit to Nevada. Nevada will submit it to Florida and say, here's our game plan. However, he will be in Nevada for a little bit of time before anything is even considered. It's usually anywhere 45, 60-day window before the application is considered.
Stephanie, what do you think of the chances of him, overturning Ms. Bondi's decisions?
Overturning Ms. Bondi's decision, there hasn't been a decision that's been made as of this point. However, I don't think it's very likely that her decision will be able to be followed through. As he said, he does have a familial support system in Florida. He'll be able to support himself through his NFL pension in addition to his Screen Actors Guild pension. And, I just think that, honestly, what she said was kind of off the board. She doesn't have any legal substance that's bringing her in.
But people, if he walks into the supermarket, you see him walking into the Winn-Dixie. Are you kidding me? There comes O.J. down the frozen food aisle. I mean,
that's going to happen regardless of whether he's in Florida, Nevada, California, New York, New Jersey. It doesn't matter. But a thing that I think a lot of people are forgetting here is that they believe that he's trying to get to Florida to avoid having that $50 million to $60 million judgment that's hanging over his head, that Ron Goldman's family from the murder trial is hanging over his head. The laws in Florida are so friendly to O.J. Simpson that his NFL pension can't be touched, any properties in his name cannot be touched, and everyone believes he's trying to get to Florida to avoid any recouping of that money.
Now, there are reports that Sydney and Justin, who are now adults, 31 and 28 years old, that they're in real estate in St. Petersburg. Do we know whose property the names are? Could it be in his name, or could they transfer to his name if he does move to Florida?
Well, they're actually under the children's name. There has been some issue or some speculation as to whether or not the actual funds came from O.J. Simpson. So there may be some kind of an issue if he sent some of the funds to his children. Perhaps maybe they're not barred under the homestead exemption anymore.
So they can look into that.
Correct.
And in terms of restrictions, he can't have drugs or a pot. Does he have an ankle bracelet? I mean, what?
It's all discretionary.
Is he under supervision? Do they watch him?
Yes, he'll have to check in with a parole officer. He potentially would have a curfew, drug and alcohol monitoring. He cannot covert with other felons or any other known people with criminal convictions. Sometimes they prevent you from going to bars, gentlemen's establishments. And he was living in the United States of America pre-Twitter, pre-Snapchat and Facebook, and everyone sharing videos. We just talked about it. He walks into a supermarket, people are going to be snapping photos, following him. His parole officers are going to be watching him like a hawk.
Stephanie, what about that? I mean, it's been 9 years, and he's got a whole new world in that time.
Well, O.J. has always been under the eye of public scrutiny, no matter what he did, whether he's playing NFL football, whether or not he was an actor. So I think that that's something that he's used to. But if we want to believe his statements from his parole hearing, we should be able to give him a chance. And that's part of the prison. That's part of the prison rehabilitation process.
And you know, I don't want to be forgotten, and should never be forgotten. Of course, that's Ron Goldman and
Right.
Nicole Brown Simpson, and the wonderful Goldman family. They've issued this statement that says, quote, "While we respect the Nevada Parole Board's decision to release Simpson, it's still difficult for us knowing he will be a free man again. We will continue pursuing the now $60 million judgment awarded to our family after the civil trial. Jury found that Simpson willfully and wrongfully caused the deaths of Ron and Nicole, as well as remain dedicated in our commitment to domestic violence awareness, victim advocacy, and judicial reform." And man, I mean, I covered that whole trial in Los Angeles. It stays with you, and that is really the message. Domestic violence, murder, and protecting the victims in our society, I think.
Absolutely, and the Goldman family will never let anyone forget, and rightfully so. They've gone to great lengths to make sure that people don't forget that he was found civilly responsible, and that a jury said that he was responsible for their deaths and awarded them that sum of money. And I think by seeking to collect it and continually to seek to collect it, it keeps their memory alive and the memory of, you know, the domestic violence and the murder that you were talking about.
And finally, Stephanie, you expect that they will continue to do that?
Absolutely. I do expect that they will continue to do that, and as they should, if they believe that he is, and he was found civilly liable for the wrongful death of Nicole and Ronald Goldman, excuse me. So they absolutely should. However, under the Homestead Exemption Act, it is known that if he can buy property, he can buy real estate property, and there's an exorbitant amount of value to whatever property that he can get. So it'll be significantly difficult for them to do so.
And there are those who say he has served his time, and as he said, and he has paid his debts to society, so to speak. So we'll see, but we should never forget the victims.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Stephanie and Robert, very much.
Thanks, Eric.